have some churches that help us, but not a lot, but mostly it's our people that we work hard. We do a lot of selling. They donated stuff to us, and sometimes we buy a little bit, but we invest a little bit, but we gain a lot.
Right.
And we have some projects during the year. We have one sell every month, to just to gain a little bit more, raise funds for the building. And we also have our tithes and offerings that help us a lot.
So, in the way you're going about trying to, for those who don't have a lot of money to give, in some cases, you have people who have money and they're able to give, and I know in churches in the States, a lot of times we have people who give thousands of dollars to a building
Yes.
fund and help to build up nice facilities. But in down here, that's rare. Rather, that's
Right.
not the norm.
Yes.
And so what you do then is you take your people, you get your young people, plus other folks are involved in going out and selling goods that are donated to you. We brought a container of goods down here from Helping Hand Missions, and we're going to give them some of these goods, and another group gets some of the goods, and they'll be selling those goods to help build the work here. So that's part of what we're doing down here, and I was interested in the fact that the way that people are involved in helping to build the ministry here, rather than him going back to the States and raising all the money to come and build the buildings, which is what some missionaries do, and I don't necessarily fault that. But I do know that when people take ownership in a project, that they have more respect for it and they're more involved. They have more care. They take better care of it. And if something were to happen, the brother Israel would have to go back to the States. That would be their building, right? I mean, they
Yes.
would be something that they would take pride in and carry on the work and the ministry here. And so, what is your vision for the future for the work here?
Well, our vision is we would like to have we have a lot of teens in our church, and our vision is just to have those teens have a nice family, have a good home, and that's what we're trying to do, and build the church up, and just disciple them and train them to do what we have been doing, going maybe to another villages or another districts or another countries, having missionaries. And certainly the Lord has given us many young people, and we already have three who are surrendered to be pastors or missionaries wherever God wants them to go.
I understand you're sending one of these young men to Mexico for training next
Yes,
in a few
in
months,
a few
right?
months
Yeah.
he will go and to be going to the Bible Institute, get trained so he can be a pastor. We don't know if he's going to come back to Belize, but we know that he's going to be trained to do God's will.
Yeah. Right. And so your vision for seeing that these young people have good families. I mean, do you have a particular training program or method that some
Well,
things you're following to help them to have those good families?
well, we have a Sunday school class for them,
Uh-huh.
for the young girls and for the young men. And we also have on Saturdays we meet all our teenagers. Just last week we had a little banquet, Christmas banquet, and we have about 35 teenagers.
Yeah.
Most of them, well, actually, all of them are from our church.
Hmm.
We probably had like one or two that were visiting, but that
Right.
was it.
Right.
And we were missing some still,
Hmm.
but the Lord has really blessed our church with a lot of teenagers.
That's great. Well, you certainly have a good group of teenagers, and there's just a good seeming a good solid church. People are attend regular, and just a good growing work here. He's only been here 3 years, and you run around 100. Is that
No,
right on Sunday evenings or
well,
something
Sunday
like that?
evenings maybe about 80,
80 to
85.
100, 80, 85.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. So I just wanted to introduce you to Brother Israel and his ministry here. He's been a blessing to us. He's been a big help to us, providing us with a place to stay while we're here, and so we're just grateful for what the Lord is doing. We're grateful that we can maybe expose His work. If the folks back there in Florida, you're all the way from California, the other side of the country. But if you'd have one request of the folks back there in Florida, what would you want? What would that request be? Our listeners today.
As far as
Far as prayer or
oh well,
financial support
yes,
or
well they
any
can.
of that.
I mean, we would like for you to guys pray for us. This is a different country. Brother,
Yeah.
Brother Dewey can just tell you guys how this country is very different from other countries. It's like going to another world,
Yeah.
and we just need your prayers. constantly we have a lot of violence, a lot of crime here, and we just need your prayers. That God will protect us. And also, if you would like to help us in our building, that would be great. But just with your prayers will be nice. Will be wonderful for our family here.
Now, if anybody wanted to send you a gift, you could send it to our radio station. We would see that he gets it. You could designate that, or you could send it to his mission board, which is
Yes.
you have a mission board there in the United States. Which
Yes.
would that be?
It's called FBMI, Fundamental Baptist Missions International. That's in Crown Point, Indiana. I'm sorry, Hammond, Indiana.
Okay, got an address?
Yes, it's 507 State Street, Hammond, Indiana.
So if you wanted to send Brother Israel a gift, and I would recommend that you do so, you send it to 507 State Street in Hammond, Indiana, and he would just say put Israel Alvarez on it, and he would get those funds, and you can designate it for that way. I'm sure he would be blessed, and you'd be blessed by giving. We're living in an unstable time, economic. Everybody in America is probably worried right now, except those that are got their fingers on the monetary trigger. I don't know if they're worried or not. They don't seem to be, but they sure make the rest of us nervous. But even in an economic time or downturn, the way to stay economically, physically, financially healthy is to give. One of the scriptural principles, one of the issues that we deal with as far as the issues of life is, give and it shall be given unto you, pressed down, shaken together, running over, now men giving your bosom. So we certainly highly recommend it, and we appreciate Brother Israel coming on the show today, and he may hang around with us for a while while we discuss some of the issues going on there in the United States. I first heard about the shooting in Connecticut on Friday, right after it happened. I got a bleep over my phone, and it had that news bleep there, and so I've been trying to follow it ever since, and it's a disturbing fact. Maybe we need to take a break and come back and discuss that when we come back off this break.
Yes, we will. We'll take a quick break, but if you want to join in the conversation, 994-3747, or just go to our website at truthradiofm.org. We'll be right back at the Issues of Life radio show right here on WTGF 90.5. Chiropractic care, the natural answer for many people's back, neck pain, and spinal-related injuries. Dr. William Buck Waters has been providing quality chiropractic care to Northwest Florida residents for over 30 years. Dr. Waters is currently accepting new patients in his Pensacola office, which is conveniently located at 1602 North 9th Avenue. For experience you can trust and care you can count on, his office phone number is 435-7777. That's 435-7777.
Culpeper Insurance Agency is a proud sponsor of WTGF Truth Radio 90.5. They are located at 6630 Caroline Street in Milton, and their phone number is 623-3601. Supplying peace of mind for your home, auto, recreational vehicles, and commercial insurance, along with life and health insurance. They are there for your needs. Help Culpeper Insurance support your Christian radio station. Thank them for making WTGF 90.5 possible in your community.
The Little Red Barn, which is located at 4474 Woodbine Road in Pace, is a proud sponsor of the music and programming of WTGF 90.5. Come and enjoy fresh homemade desserts, cakes, and a ton of other desserts in their bakery. They also have soups, salads, and sandwiches featuring premium boar's head meats and cheeses. And while you're there, make sure you look at all the gifts and neat stuff that's inside the Little Red Barn. Their phone number is 995-4332. That's the Little Red Barn at 4474 Woodbine Road in Pace. Serving Saturday breakfast 8 a.m. till 10:30 a.m. Also lunch delivery every Monday through Friday 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. at the Little Red Barn. Welcome back to the Issues of Life radio show right here on WTGF 90.5. And we want you to join in on the conversation. Again, the phone number is 994-3747. Or if you just want to send an email or something, just go to truthradiofm.org. Click on the little link that says Issues of Life Show. Fill out the information. It comes directly to me right here. And, the things going on in Connecticut, I mean, this is a huge topic because it was 6- and 7-year-olds.
Yeah.
Columbine was a different. Those kids were in high school, kind of, But
not
these,
to make it any less horrible.
No,
but
not at all. Not at all.
Anytime these ages are involved, it's just you're going to get a little bit more of an emotional reaction, and we're not. It's always horrible when somebody is killed in this fashion, but when you're dealing with elementary age children, I have a 2- and a 4-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to get a little bit more because, I mean, they're really. I mean, they're not even responsible for their actions yet. There's no reason to hold a grudge against someone of that age. So this is one of the most horrific things I've ever seen.
Absolutely.
And I have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old, and the 5-year-old I was going, wow. But let me tell you a little thing. My wife, she went back to school Monday, but she's off now anyway. When she walked into her music room, she said the first thing she thought about was where is she going to hide the children? I mean, and it's really sad that it's come to that. Yeah. She had to think that. But when the first graders came in, she just looked at all of them and just hugged every single one of them, just saying, "I love you, kid." They are her kids. They're not students.
My mom's a teacher. She did the same thing. The day it happened, I think it was the day it happened. It happened on a Friday, didn't
Mm-hmm.
it? The day it happened, that was the same day where her children had given her all her Christmas gifts. They brought apples and candy and
right.
And so just to see the contrast of what the day she got to enjoy versus the day in Connecticut. And my mom's she's an emotional person anyway, and she's been teaching for 30 years. And she was just, she called me on the phone, and she was very broken up about the situation, as I'm sure any sane person would be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would imagine that every teacher in the country over this last week, starting on Monday, had a different perspective on their children when they went into their classroom.
Oh, yeah.
I read about one man who resigned. Of course, it was over a different issue, but it was over having to teach nonsense to the kids. But he resigned his class, and so I'm sure that the teachers are having probably a more difficult time than the rest of us dealing with this type of an issue.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's really affected her more than I've seen a whole bunch of other issues. I mean, it's just the teachers care a lot, and for that one girl to put herself in front of the shooter to shield the kids, that made Heidi cry on the drop of a dime, because she said she would do the exact same thing, and any of us would.
Of course, my wife's not a teacher, but when she came in and told me that what had happened, she was crying when she came in and told me. It's just, it really is. It's just a horrific situation.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you got all the media talking heads now wanting to make stricter gun laws. And I read something last week, I think it was, with this. And I really have to be blunt here. Some idiot news commentator said something to the effect that, and I think I brought it out last week, but that all guns in the country ought to be outlawed. Anybody found with one ought to be executed. That's the most stupid, idiotic statement I've ever heard in my life. Guns are not the problem, even though the attitude toward them may add to this type of thing. I think that, however, that it can also be pointed out that in San Antonio, Texas, a police officer was there at a theater when a young man came in to shoot people, and was able to, because they had a gun, was able to stop that.
Yes,
you could have had two of them take place.
Yes, sir.
We had another massacre.
On the day of the Connecticut shooting, I think every day after that, because when you get online on my MSN page, you have headlines of what's going on throughout the day. And I think every day after that, for 4 days straight, there was a shooting somewhere. There was a shooting in a theater. There was a shooting in a hospital, and there were 4 people shot dead in their home. I don't know if it was a domestic situation or if someone entered the home unwelcome, but for 4 days since after the Connecticut issue, there were issues involving guns and murder, and the devil certainly, see, the devil wants there to be gun control.
Yeah.
The devil's,
Absolutely.
yeah. He's looking into the issue himself. He wants there to be gun control because he knows what it means for our personal liberties. So he wants it to happen.
Yeah.
It'll
Well, and here's the thing. There's a deeper problem we need to talk about here, I think. I was reading about this. Is it the Hillsboro Baptist Church or the what is that church? That those crazy folks that are.
Yeah, you got that fool over there. What's his name? Phelps, and he goes to military funerals.
They're talking about to the funerals of these kids.
Yeah.
And pointing out that this is the wrath of God coming down on America, and it may be. They're saying that God sent the shooter. Well, I think that's and I would not go so far to say that, because these things are the fruits of our neglect and our kicking God out of our society.
Yeah, it's not God hitting anybody with a stick. It's not God hitting anybody with a stick. It's the result. We say we don't want him, and like I preached about in church, and I've said before on there, we've discussed it on the air. Whenever we ask him to remove himself as far as his protection, because God's everywhere, we know that. But whenever we ask him,
like what are you referring to what Huckabee said? I like what Huckabee said on the air.
Yeah.
About somebody asked, well, where was God when all this took place? Well, we invited him to leave our schools. You know, we invited him a number of years back to be out of school. We didn't want to talk to him anymore through prayer. We didn't want him talking to us through his Bible. So we basically invited him to leave. So he was where he's all. Now he's everywhere. He's omniscient, like you said. He's omnipresent. But people want him around when things aren't bad. But then when things do go bad, they wonder where he is. Well, he left him out of life.
And they blame him, But whenever
blame him for the things.
Yeah, whenever he removes his protection, you're going to have things happen that simply cannot be explained. You're going to have bizarre episodes of violence like this issue in Connecticut. It's inexplicable because when God removes his protection, that's when things start going out of control.
Yeah. So that being said, the answer to the problem is not stricter gun laws or taking guns out of society or all of the crazy ideas that people are espousing today. The answer is to put God back in our lives, back in our homes, back in our schools, back in our society. The answer is the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
Yes.
So the answer is turning back to the Lord. The key for America's survival is turning to God without question.
And I think Brother Julian, Brother Julian grew up in a different country until he was 12.
Yes, sir.
And so he could maybe offer us a different perspective. But at any rate, I think he's got some material to do with the history of gun control.
Well, I last night when John told me that he wanted me to come to the show, I went online and did some research, and I found some really interesting things. Actually, one of these was floating around on Facebook, but I found it very interesting. It's called a little gun history, and it goes through the history and quite a few nations that have established very strict gun control or have completely outlawed guns. And let me just read this to you. It's not very long here. It says, in 1929, Soviet Union, which is where I'm from, established gun control. From 1929 to 1953, about 20 million dissidents who were unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. 1911, Turkey established gun control. From 1915 to 17, 1.5 million Armenians unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. Germany established gun control in 38, and from 39 to 45, a total of 13 million Jews and others who were unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. China established gun control in 35, and from 48 to 52, 20 million political dissidents unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. Guatemala established gun control in 64, and from 64 to 81, 100,000 Mayan Indians unable to defend themselves were rounded up, exterminated. Uganda established gun control in 70, and from 71 to 79, 300,000 Christians unable to defend themselves, again, rounded up, exterminated. And the list goes on, and then until we get to a country called Switzerland, which issues every household a SIG 550 assault rifle, and not only that, they train every adult to use it. Guess what? Switzerland has the lowest gun-related crime rate of any civilized country in the world.
Yeah, brother.
It's amazing to me that people don't want to give that. I've been quoting that statistic just about every week, and it's amazing to me that people don't want to pay attention to those kinds of things. Guess who they're going to round up and kill when we have gun laws in the United States?
Right.
We're going to be the one. Our listeners who own guns, our listeners who are folks who appreciate their independent lifestyle are the ones who are going to be rounded up.
Go ahead, brother.
Something else I also found down further south a little bit, there in Jamaica. I didn't realize this, but Jamaica has very strict gun controls, and something I found on this website called firearmstruth.com. I'm going to read this real quick. It says, let's consider the island nation of Jamaica. The gun ownership there, the nation's Firearm Act, which was first passed in '67 and has been amended over the years, regulates the ownership and use of firearms and ammunitions. This sounds like something that American gun control types would like to see in America. This law requires gun license in all firearms and yearly registration fee of $6,000. Now, for a rather poor nation, this is an outrageous amount of money. The nation even has a special gun court, which was established in 1997 to try criminal cases involving firearms. In other words, Jamaica is an example to the world where gun control is a very serious deal. Is it working? No, not really. Guns are still imported illegally, smuggled, traded for drugs, and from Haiti and other countries. And is it working? No. The criminals still get their hands on guns, and they what happens then? You have an unarmed upstanding citizens, and you have a bunch of criminals with guns. What are you going to have? You're going to have chaos.
Well, as we've said,
Well,
go ahead, brother.
Here's the thing. Now, I wouldn't be opposed to gun training, which is provided by a lot of private groups like the NRA and different ones. I'm certainly not opposed to gun training and people being qualified in the use of a gun. Switzerland does that. Israel also has it. You can go to Israel, and there's your ordinary citizenry there. They all have guns out of necessity for their own protection because they live daily with the threat of violence. But they have very strict gun laws in the sense that you're required to be licensed, you're required to be trained, and I'm not opposed to those kinds of things because that helps to keep guns out of the wrong hands. But as far as the strict gun laws being established and guns being taken away from the citizenry, that's doomsday for us. That's doomsday for the United States of America, because at that point in time, you're going to have a dictator step up and take control and martial law. In fact, in this whole thing, in a town in Arkansas, they had a special police unit out with AR-15s questioning every citizen that came by. If somebody was out running walk dog, they were stopped and made to show ID and that sort of thing. This just in the last 2 weeks. So martial law in the United States is not a foreign concept.
Not at all.
We have UN people, so-called, in our country right now that could create total havoc for us. There's all kinds of issues that are coming up over this matter.
And another verse that we quote on this show a lot, we need to remember that we wrestle not against flesh and blood. I mean, there's agendas, there are supernatural agendas at work. The devil would love for there to be gun control, as I stated earlier, because as Brother Julian just pointed out, gun control, whenever you come in and take the guns, that is always a predecessor to something much more sinister. as in those various examples that he read.
Yeah.
Just
Well, I like, as I remember, the matter of his Switzerland is my favorite situation. You know, if I could choose to live in a country, that's the kind of laws I'd like to have to live under regarding guns, because of every citizen or of a certain age being required to have them, be trained in them, and maintain them in their house.
I mean, if every school teacher, if every school teacher was formally trained to use a gun the way policemen are, if they were formally trained to use a gun, how much safer do you think they would feel?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, without question. Hey, there. Go ahead, Julian.
I wanted to say, having grown up in a country where it was illegal to own firearms of any sort unless you were a registered hunter and you had to go through all kinds of hoops and loops to get that. But most general public was unarmed, and yes, even most criminals were unarmed. However, did that stop crime? By no means at all. You still had criminals.
Go ahead.
You still had criminals using other forms of weapons, using knives, doing whatever other things they could do to attack, to rob. So did that stop violence? No. Did it slow down maybe some of the gun-related violence? Yeah. But the fact is, if I'm a criminal and I want to break into a house, or if I want to go and cause some damage, if I know that most likely the people who I'm going to attack are not armed, hey, I can go in there with a knife. I can go in there with a baseball bat. Matter of fact, I read last night about the incident in Connecticut. This person said, well, you know, he really didn't have to have a gun. What if he just ran his vehicle through the fence and ran through a playground full of children? That would have accomplished very similar thing. He could have killed just as many people and not used a firearm. So it's not guns, it's people. It's not guns, it is people
that's
and
right.
their mindset.
It's a much deeper problem than just guns.
Absolutely.
Most definitely. In fact, I saw something on Facebook today. Somebody had a clip on Facebook about two guys going into a internet cafe.
I saw that.
People.
Yes, sir.
They both had guns. You see that? They were rounding people up, and this senior citizen, thank God for senior citizens.
Amen.
This senior citizen have a concealed carry permit, and he had his gun, and he started letting them have it. And buddy, they hightailed it out of there. He didn't kill them, I don't guess, but they hightailed it out of there.
But they got arrested.
He avoided. He prevented a taking place because he was armed.
Absolutely.
Okay, our producer, brother John Graves, is going to read something, Brother Dewey.
Yeah, this came fresh off the Newswire, thanks to Miss Angie in there. She's our crack reporter. President Obama has appointed Vice President Joe Biden to head an effort to prevent gun violence. He said, preventing these tragedies starts inside the homes and inside our hearts. The fact that this problem is complex means absolutely nothing. I am betting that the vast majority of responsible, law-abiding gun owners would say we should be able to keep an irresponsible, law-breaking few from getting a gun. They'd agreed that an unbalanced man shouldn't be able to get his hands on a military-style assault rifle. And it goes on from there. It says these are the lesser-known tragedies that we should visit in a small town. Obama has set a January deadline for gun recommendations from Vice President Joe Biden. So
let me hold on. Biden is heading this up.
Yep, he has just appointed him.
Biden.
Well, listen. Never mind the political side of that. I think this. Now, that's one of the things that Israel, the nation of Israel, does. They make sure that a person passes a psychological fitness exam as well as a background check in a number of areas to own a gun. I would not be opposed to something like that. I would be opposed to them taking guns away totally, but I certainly wouldn't be opposed to keeping guns out of the hands of crazy people.
Well, we want you to be a part of the conversation, and I don't think John will mind. I like saying the numbers every once in a while. 994-3747, or if you want to contact us on the web, on the internet, email us at truthradiofm.org. And I've got an article that I want to read after this break.
That's right. We'll come right back right here on the Issues of Life radio show right here on WTGF 90.5. Chiropractic care, the natural answer for many people's back, neck pain, and spinal-related injuries. Dr. William Buck Waters has been providing quality chiropractic care to Northwest Florida residents for over 30 years. Dr. Waters is currently accepting new patients in his Pensacola office, which is conveniently located at 1602 North 9th Avenue. For experience you can trust and care you can count on, his office phone number is 435-7777. That's 435-7777.
Culpeper Insurance Agency is a proud sponsor of WTGF Truth Radio 90.5. They are located at 6630 Caroline Street in Milton, and their phone number is 623-3601. Supplying peace of mind for your home, auto, recreational vehicles, and commercial insurance, along with life and health insurance. They are there for your needs. Help Culpeper Insurance support your Christian radio station. Thank them for making WTGF 90.5 possible in your community.
The Little Red Barn, which is located at 4474 Woodbine Road in Pace, is a proud sponsor of the music and programming of WTGF 90.5. Come and enjoy fresh homemade desserts, cakes, and a ton of other desserts in their bakery. They also have soups, salads, and sandwiches featuring premium boar's head meats and cheeses. And while you're there, make sure you look at all the gifts and neat stuff that's inside the Little Red Barn. Their phone number is 995-4332. That's the Little Red Barn at 4474 Woodbine Road in Pace. Serving Saturday breakfast 8 a.m. till 10:30 a.m. Also lunch delivery every Monday through Friday 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. at the Little Red Barn. Welcome back to the Issues of Life radio show right here on WTGF 90.5. We got Brother Julian Vipan, got Brother Dewey out in Belize. Looks like he's suntanning or something. I don't know. You have a nice golden glow on there. Maybe it's just the FaceTime video.
Watch out now. Watch out. Watch out.
Yes, sir.
If I look like I got a sunburn, it's not because I'm laying on a beach. I can tell you that.
All right, I've got. I'm going to read this. I'm going to try to get through this. And this is the father of one of the Columbine victims, and this speech was given May the 27th, 1999. So, and it says, Mr. Scott lost his daughter and his son was wounded. So he lost his daughter in the Columbine tragedy, and his son was wounded. And I'm going to read this. Darrell Scott, the father of Rachel Scott, a victim of Columbine High School shootings in Littleton, Colorado, was invited to address the House Judiciary Committee's subcommittee. What he said to our national leaders during this special session of Congress was painfully truthful. They were not prepared for what he had to say, nor was it received well. Okay, so this is everything that I'm saying is his words, or his words. At this very moment, in a cemetery in southern Denver, Chapel Hill Cemetery, they're erecting 13 crosses that I think are well known across the country as a permanent memorial at the head of my daughter's grave. And my heart really longs to be there with my children, Bethany and her husband Don, Dana, Craig, and Mike. But it's with their blessing that I'm here today, and I appreciate that. I realize that I'm a mere pawn in today's hearings, but I'm willing to be a pawn because I dare believe that I can make a difference. Every once in a while, a pawn has been used to checkmate a king. I have no hidden agenda, and of course, I have no political aspirations. I simply speak to you as a broken-hearted father, and I only ask that you allow your heart to hear me for the next few minutes. Since the dawn of creation, there has been both good and evil in the hearts of men and women, and we all contain those seeds. We contain the seeds of kindness, and we contain the seeds of violence. And the death of my wonderful daughter, Rachel Joyce Scott, and the deaths of that heroic teacher and 11 other children who died must not be in vain. Their blood cries out for answers. The first recorded act of violence was when Cain slew his brother Abel out in the field. The villain was not the club he used, neither was it the NCA, the National Club Association. The true killer was Cain, and the reason for the murder could only be found in his heart. In the days that followed the Columbine tragedy, I was amazed at how quickly fingers began to be pointed at groups such as the NRA. I am not a member of the NRA. I am not a hunter. I do not even own a gun. I am not a member. I am not here to represent or defend the NRA because I do not believe they are responsible for my daughter's death. Therefore I don't believe they need to be defended by me. If I believed they had anything to do with Rachel's murder, I would be their strongest opponent. I am here today to declare that Columbine was not just a tragedy. I'm turning the page here, excuse me. He goes on to say it was a spiritual event which should be forcing us to look at where the real blame lies. Much of that blame lies here in this room. Much of the blame lies behind the pointing fingers of the accusers themselves. Men and women are three-part beings. We have a body, we have a soul, and we have a spirit. And I believe we fail to recognize that third element. That really does need to be recognized by the legislative bodies of this country. It's been ignored for so long. Spiritual influences were present within our educational system for most of our nation's history. Many of our major colleges began as theological seminaries, and we know this to be a historical fact. What has happened to us as a nation? We have refused to honor God, and in doing so, we have opened the doors to hatred and violence. And when something as terrible as Columbine's tragedy occurs, politicians immediately look for a scapegoat, such as the NRA. They immediately seek to pass more restrictive laws that continue to erode away our personal and private liberties. We do not need more restrictive laws. Eric and Dylan, those are the Columbine killers, Eric and Dylan. Eric and Dylan would not have been stopped by more gun laws or metal detectors. No amount of laws can stop someone who spends months planning this type of massacre. The real villain lies within our own hearts. Political posturing and restrictive legislation are not the answers. The young people of our nation hold the key, and there is a spiritual awakening that is taking place and will not be squelched. We don't need more religion. We don't need more gaudy television evangelists spewing out verbal religious garbage. We don't need more million-dollar church buildings being built while people's basic needs are being ignored. We do need a change of heart and humble acknowledgement that this nation was founded on the principles was founded on a simple principle: in God we trust. When my son Craig lay under that table in the library and saw his two friends murdered before his very eyes, he didn't hesitate to pray in school. And I defy any law or politician to deny him that right. I recognize every young person in America and around the world. Let's see here. I defy any lawmaker or politician to deny him that right. I challenge every young person in America and around the world to realize that on April 20th, 1999 at Columbine High School, prayer was brought back to our schools. Don't let the many prayers offered by those students be in vain. Dare to move into the new millennium with a sacred disregard for legislation that violates your conscience and denies your God-given rights to communicate with Him. And to those of you who would blame the NRA, I give you a sincere challenge. Dare to examine your own heart before you cast a stone. My daughter's death will not be in vain. The young people of this country will not allow that to happen. And that those were some.
Yeah, that's serious stuff. I remember I'm hearing that and seeing that. I think I saw that speech online when he gave it, and it was a tremendous statements that he made there. And that's and a powerful truth. The fact it's a spiritual problem. The bottom line is it's a spiritual, moral problem, not a gun problem. And
yes,
so we may need some adjustment in our guns laws. That's fine, adjustment. But it's not a gun problem. It's a spiritual problem. The way to solve the crime problem in the United States is to get back to the spiritual needs of our nation. You know, speaking of that, I'd like to bring something out a little bit. It's related, but it's not directly related. I would say it's kind of indirect, has an indirect relationship. Here's something interesting. There's a group that has developed a it's a gay-friendly version of Scripture.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
it's called the Queen James Bible.
Wow.
And it has to do with, they've made their own gender-free, I guess, translation of the Bible. They said that King James was a bisexual, and so they are taking off on that note to bring this about. It's published by Amazon. You're able to get it on Amazon.com and things like that. But it's absolutely, this is the absurdity. This is the absolute extreme to where we've gone. What I see today as a major part of the problem is the extremes to which we've gone. For instance, Westboro Baptist Church going and picketing these children's the funerals, to me is ridiculous. And then this would represent the other extreme, changing the Bible to fit your own particular perverted situation. And I'm sorry if people don't like that word, but that's a fact. That's the way it is.
Well, I don't.
And these are the real issues that we're dealing with. The shootings are the fruit of
yes,
the real problem.
Yes, sir. The shootings are the fruit of decisions like this. And when you sent me that email the other night, I don't know that I've ever heard of anything more blasphemous than this. You know, this Queen James Bible.
It's horrible. I mean, it's ridiculous the degree to which we've gone today to people, and then they want to they want to blame God when these kind of problems come, when the fruits start falling off the tree, you know. And then they want to blame God for it. It's the absence of God in our society that's the real problem. And by the way, let me not be get too far with this thing and say this: the church is not exempt from being a part of the problem.
Absolutely
not. You know, most churches are nothing more than social clubs. Most of us, we spend more time arguing with each other and debating issues that are really not relevant than we do out evangelizing people. We still are under a command to go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. And for the most part, we spend our money on big fancy buildings and all sorts of things other than really, truly reaching a lost world with the glorious gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ.
Yes, sir. Spend too much time
trying. Have we had any callers today? Nobody calling in? I appreciate our callers in the past calling in. We'd sure like to get your opinions on this program today. We're coming down to the wire to the end, but we still have time if you want to call us in. Give that number out, guys.
994-3747, 994-0823, truthradiofm.org if you want to communicate with us through an email. We'd love to hear from we'd love to hear from you within the last 8 or 10 minutes that we have left. And you know what Brother Dewey's saying is true. We spend a lot more time these days trying to make ourselves comfortable or trying to be a diplomat, and there are times when we need to be diplomatic, but we spend a lot of time trying to appease people and take the path of least resistance, and there are things we need to stand on. There are biblical principles that we need to stand on, and we need to stand on those principles whether we take heed or not. Go ahead, Brother Dewey.
Yeah, Paul, I'm not even suggesting that we You know, a lot of some folks' idea of preaching the gospel is more of a turnoff than it is
Yeah,
an
yeah,
invitation to the Lord. You know, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, you know what I believe? I believe that the reason that the world was reached in just 30 years in the early church, the time of Christ's death, burial, and resurrection to the time the book of Colossians was written was about 30 years. And it was during that period of time, the entire world got the gospel. And my personal opinion is, and this is just my opinion, it has some scriptural basis, but I believe this, that every Christian, and I say every, that's, you know, it's relative, every Christian took their responsibility for every creature. The command, we've got people who have the concept, the idea that, well, that's the preacher's job. That's why we hire a pastor to go out and tell others and build the church. No, that's not the pastor's job. The pastor's job is to tend to the flock. The individual Christian's job is to evangelize the world. Go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. And that was given to all of us. And so I really think that that's where we need to get back to, not just preaching the gospel, but standing for truth. And when
yes,
I say stand, I just mean, to me, that simply means not moving, you know, not budging,
yes, sir.
not moving. When the world moves over towards, when the church moves over towards the world, we don't go with it. We stay. You know, if we end up alone, well, then so be it. I believe that's where we need to be, though today, as far as being honest with truth, being straight up, giving out the gospel, and maintaining the truth.
And certainly, we've kind of, like you said, we're kind of merging with the world a lot of times today. But certainly, we're responsible to have a good enough influence that, see, it's my job to reach the people that are within my sphere of influence. We all have individuals that are within our own sphere of influence. Whether it's our siblings,
Absolutely.
it's our children, it's our uncles and aunts, it's our neighbors, it's people that we've known for a long time. I know people that you don't know, Brother Dewey, and you know people that I don't know, and we are at the very least responsible to reach the people that's within our own direct sphere of influence. And I don't think a lot of that goes on much anymore, unfortunately.
All right, we started out the program today talking about here in Belize, and I'd like to wrap it up today since you got Julian there in the studio with you. Julian's been here. He came down here for 3 months, and I've only been for a couple of weeks at a time myself, and so Julian can give a little bit of a different perspective. I also want to conclude with giving you a little more information about Brother Israel Alvarez. I wanted to contact him if you have an interest in this area of the world, and maybe you just have some questions for Brother Israel. You can contact him at Israel Alvarez at fbmi.org. That's Israel. That's spelled just like the nation of Israel. Alvarez, Alverez, Barez, at fbmi.org. And if you wanted to contact the mission board, that's again 507 State Street, Hammond, Indiana 46320. And we have a missionary there in Milton who's out of our church, who is a missionary here. And I've been here with some of his people. We've been working with them this week, the last week or so, and trying to help them get a little something going to help them even maintain their own families. And so one of those men out of Brother Gret Smallwood's church is Brother Armando Tillett. He's keeping Brother Gret's dog. Brother Gret's got a big bulldog down here.
And my
by
cat.
the way, those kinds they have those animals down here because they can't have guns. That's about the closest thing they can get to protection. Now, they can have guns, but I think Brother Julian mentioned about a gun in Jamaica, the permits being so high, the average person can't afford it. Well, down here it's about the same way. One permit, you can have it, one gun for one permit for $500 every year you got to pay. So most people can't afford that. But anyway, Julian's been down here, and maybe he'd like to wrap up with a few comments about his experience down here. He had it pretty tough when he first came, and so I'd like him to just give a few comments regarding his experience in Belize.
I don't know if tough is the word, brother. Me being Russian, having grew up in America, going down to Belize, it's just awkward. Well, we were all honestly very blessed to have had that opportunity to come down there. And when we came back here, I did go on the air here, and we talked about it a little bit. The Lord had called me into ministry back in 1999, and both me and my wife had both surrendered for missions. And this was one of the opportunities we've had to come down there and to maintain the work for Brother Gret Smallwood while he was he had to come back on the medical leave to the States here. Was it difficult? Yes. The culture differences are definitely a barrier, an obstacle to overcome. But and Brother Dewey, you and I have talked about this even while I was still down there in Belize. What I'd like to see more is missions teams going out. Missions teams
Absolutely.
going out. That would be such a. And I know me and Brother Alvarez. Matter of fact, the day we were going to the airport, he and I talked about it, and he related to me some of the struggles he had faced when he first came down to Belize. Now, granted, he's already a step ahead of me. He comes from Hispanic culture. He knows Spanish language, which is like the second language over there. And he related to me that it was not easy for him as well. So
Right.
now, how much easier would it have been if he had another brother by his side or a team there with him to get all that going, to start the ministry? You know, in 3 years he did a phenomenal job, having started from ground zero and built up his church to where it is right now. But how much more could have been accomplished? How much less stress he would have endured if he would have had more men by his side working there with him. You know.
Yeah, it's really rough on the family. You know, I've
Yes, sir.
observed
Absolutely.
some things here, being in the home with them. You know, and it's more difficult on the family. The man's usually out evangelizing, going and blowing, and just on the go all the time. And the wife is home with the children, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that at all. But if there was a companion, somebody, another female to talk to, and if when the man faces struggles that he's not accustomed to, certainly another person would be helpful to. So the benefit of teams, I believe, is proven by the Lord when He sent them out 2 by 2.
Amen.
I think there was a purpose in that, and so it would be valid today. One of the best groups that I know of that's doing that is New Tribes. New Tribes requires their missionaries normally going into a new tribe to go in pairs. And so,
okay, we're down to about 1 minute.
It's a real good principle.
We're down to about 1 minute, and I guess.
All right. Well, that's Paul. You just wrap it up there.
Well, I've got a story that I need to tell.
Our producer wants to say something. So.
All right.
We love our sponsors here at WTGF, and of course, if you would like to sponsor the show, just give us a call, 994-3747. But I do have a story. The good people over at Laha in Milton, the Milton band director, every year at Christmas takes the band to Laha, and they went to La Hacienda. I believe it was Saturday, and it was about 150 people, and the bill was like $1,500. So when he went up there to pay with his own money, the band director paying with his own money to take those kids, the guy taking his cash said Merry Christmas.
Well,
it was just
amen.
one of those amazing things that needs to be shared.
Now, you might want to refer to what Laha is. We're accustomed to Laha, but our listeners may be referring to somebody else.
Right, La Hacienda. It's a Mexican restaurant.
Mexican restaurant with locations in Milton, Pace, and Pensacola.
Well, at any rate, I want to find out when that guy's working. I want
Yeah, I know.
to find out when he's on.
But the little stories that just make the big difference, and we're dealing with all the tragedies of Connecticut, everything that's going on. Just that one little act of kindness.
Yeah. Amen.
It was just amazing. So I just wanted to share that.
I can vouch for those folks at La Hacienda because I pastored them for a number of years, and they have always been very generous. They're very, as far as giving, they do quite well. So.
Amen. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. And I guess next week will be the day after Christmas. Christmas is Tuesday, right?
Yes, it is.
So our next show next week will be the day after Christmas. Join with us next week on the 26th at 12 noon, and we'll be back with another episode of the Issues of Life program.